In this hand, we use the concept of protection to reach showdown with a medium strength hand as the preflop caller and facing aggression. We have pocket tens. The cutoff limps, the button isolates him, and we can certainly 3-bet here, but I chose to call so that we could keep the weaker player in the pot. We hit a pretty good flop for our hand, but certainly nothing we're going to get a lot of value from. So I decided to check. The weaker player checks, and then the button also checks. So at this point we have a lot more information. The button is unlikely to have any sort of strong hand. And we'd expect the weaker player to bet out some of the time on the flop if he had something. So we can discount a few combos from his range of strong hands. On this turn, nothing really changes that much. The button would be likely to bet this flop if he had an 8, simply because he kind of doesn't mind people calling that much because he can improve on the turn and river and then win a big pot, in addition to taking down immediately. So I decided to check, and then the button bets. And at this point his range is very unprotected, because if he had any sort of decent hand, like a jack, he would certainly want to bet the flop for value. If he had an overpair, he'd want to bet. If he had a set, he'd probably want to bet the flop for value. So that kind of leaves 8s, which he might have checked behind, and then random bluffs. So maybe he has a hand like ace-queen, and he wants to take a stab at it on the turn because he thinks that I have a pocket pair, or that Ronan has a pocket pair. So I decided to call. I think raising is definitely an option. It gives us a little bit of protection and puts pressure on him. Maybe he would call with something like pocket 9s because he thinks that we're not repping anything. But I think calling makes a lot more sense. So on the river, it's the queen. And again, I don't think we can really go for value, so I check. And then he bets half pot. So now we're in a really tough situation because this queen definitely could have improved his range, and it seems like a reasonable card for him to bluff if he puts us on a pocket pair. So given that information, we're getting about 2.5 to 1. We have to be good about 30% of the time to make money here. So I think it's pretty close between calling and folding, because I don't think this is a great spot for him to bluff. So I don't think he's going to do it 100% of the time. So I think probably in retrospect folding is a little bit better, but I call, and then he shows the queen 10 suited. So I think that his play of checking the flop and betting the turn with this hand is a poor idea, because it gives me and Ronan, if we're thinking, a chance to call down with any pocket pair essentially. And his hand would have been a lot better for betting the flop, because he has a pretty good chance of hitting a 9 or a queen, which improved the value of his hand a lot. And he has 2 chances to do it in position, so I think that betting on the flop as a bluff is probably his best option.